Now, India's Prime Minister is due to address a joint meeting of the US Congress in a few hours. But 3 House Democrats say they'll boycott Narendra Modi's address, accusing him of violating religious freedom in India. Well, President Joe Biden has already welcomed Modi at the White House. It's being seen as an attempt to improve relations despite disagreements over Ukraine and human rights. Well, our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett joins us now. Kimberly, what are we expecting from this then?
Yeah, we can hear the band already warming up for that arrival that is set to take place in the next hour. We can expect that India's Prime Minister will be arriving on the south lawn of the White House. What we can expect is on the heels of an intimate dinner with the First Lady as well as the U.S. President, that India's Prime Minister will not only be sitting down in the Oval Office with Joe Biden, but he will also be addressing a joint session of the U.S. Congress, and then later will be enjoying a state dinner. Now, we should point out, just to underscore how special this is, there's only one other world leader, the South Korean leader, that has been extended this special invitation by the White House. And that really underscores how important this relationship is to the White House. And the reason is really twofold. First, the White House is concerned specifically about how cozy India has become with Russia in recent months. And so that is one reason. And the other is really because of the concern about the ongoing global clash between autocracy and democracy. So those are really the two issues that Joe Biden will be talking about when he sits down with the Indian Prime Minister in the Oval Office. And that's because India has in recent months abstained at the United Nations with regard to really bringing Russia to account for its invasion of Ukraine. And also, there has been concern about India's actions when it comes to freedom of the press and also its ongoing crackdown against Muslims. So there has been some concern about this warm embrace, if you will, that Joe Biden is extending to the Indian leader. In fact, there are 75 members of Joe Biden's own Democratic Party in both the House and the Senate who say that the president should not be doing this. In fact, they've sent a letter stating just that to Joe Biden, saying this is not something he should do. In fact, it's a contradiction of his own foreign policy that underscores that human rights comes first. And so they're pushing him to bring this up when he sits down in the Oval Office. And in fact, there are going to be 3 members of Congress who will be boycotting the speech when Prime Minister Modi addresses the joint session of Congress. So there are going to be a number of major announcements that will be made during this meeting. We know that there will be some trades and weapons deals that will be announced, as well as some visa announcements that will be made as well. So we're watching all of this. It's going to be a very busy day, and it all kicks off at the top of the hour.
Busy day indeed. Kimberly, thanks for that. Well, Modi's visit comes as the countries seek closer ties, especially military cooperation. The US wants to sell more weapons to India's armed forces to reduce their dependence on Russia. Moscow supplies 85% of India's military hardware. Stronger ties with India will also help the US counter China's dominance in the Indo-Pacific region. The US is India's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade increasing to a record $191 billion last year. Some Western companies have closed their production lines in China and see India as an alternative manufacturing base. Well, staying with us now, Brahma Chellaney is a professor of strategic studies at the Centre for Policy Research in New Delhi and a former advisor to India's National Security Council. He joins us live from New Delhi. Thanks for being with us. So overall, then, what do you think is the significance of this meeting for the future of India and how it positions itself in the world?
The US-India ties constitute one of the world's fastest-growing bilateral relationships. India is gaining greater salience in US policy, especially as China and Russia bolster their de facto alliance. This is raising concerns in America about being caught in a double pincer. India today is the world's fastest-growing major economy, and booming US exports to the huge Indian market, including weapon sales, reinforce India's importance to US policy. Modi's visit, by fostering greater closeness between the two powers, could prove pivotal in providing a clearer direction to US-India cooperation.
And what will the US be hoping to gain from this then, when you consider they don't always see eye to eye, do they? For example, they're very different approaches to Russia and China.
Well, certainly, they do not see eye to eye on several issues, including on issues that are critical to India's regional interests. For example, India does not agree with American policy in Afghanistan-Pakistan belt, does not agree with American policy in regard to sanctions on Myanmar, on Iran, and also opposes the US threat of sanctions against Bangladesh. But the US and India do have converging interests on larger strategic issues. Both want a stable balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, a stable balance of power free of coercion. And India's growing economic and military heft has made it crucial to establishing such a stable balance of power in Asia and the wider Indo-Pacific region.
But not everyone, forgive me, but not everyone is happy about Modi's visit, are they? I mean, due to what they would say is his poor record regarding the Muslim community in India, for example.
I think it's important to clarify matters. India is the world's largest democracy, even if an imperfect one. Every democracy is a work in progress. But what stands out about India is that it's as politically polarized as the United States. Think of the Trump presidency. Just as Trump was accused while in office of being a wannabe dictator, of undermining US democracy and pursuing an anti-Muslim agenda, similar accusations are being hurled against Modi by his critics at home and abroad. It is important to remember that just as American democracy survived Trump, Indian democracy is strong enough to check any erosion in democratic rights. India has the world's second largest Muslim population, and Muslims enjoy equal rights and are proud citizens of India. Anybody who visits India can see that. India remains as free a country as any other established democracy in the world. Make no mistake about that.
OK, we'll leave it there. Brahma Chellaney, thanks very much indeed for your time here on Al Jazeera.